Hello everyone, today we're looking at the Jasion Patrol e-bike. This e-bike has a 52 volt 30 amp hour battery which gives it 4,000 watts of power and a 40 mile per hour top speed. Let me get right into the unboxing and assembly. I didn't do much research before accepting this sponsorship, so I didn't really know what to expect from this bike, but seeing this front wheel, tire, and brake disc really got my hopes up. It's all motorcycle stuff, and the brake disc is a thick 220mm. The next item in the box is an entire sticker sheet of holographic stickers. Next up is the 5 amp charger. I'd say this is a decent amount of current. Anything less than this and the bike would take too long to charge. Next up are the front and rear fenders. After pulling those out, there's nothing left to do but pull the bike out. Here's a rundown of everything in the box. You've got some tools, some zip ties, some bolts, the headlight, the keys, the pedals, a hat, the front number plate, the fenders, the charger, and the front tire. Taking my first look at the bike without all the packaging material, I think this bike is going to be pretty comfortable to ride. It's got a super wide seat which I really appreciate. That's a lot better than having a thin seat that gets uncomfortable fast. On the back we have a motorcycle rim, tire, and brake disc to match the front, as well as a big brake caliper. Looking over the rest of the bike, the only actual bicycle parts I can see are the cranks and the sprocket and all that stuff, but that's to be expected. The stem and handlebars are also most likely bike parts. You may have noticed that there's no battery, and that's because it ships separately. I like the look of this battery. It looks pretty tough because most of the battery is inside this one big piece of extruded aluminum. As I mentioned earlier, it's a 52 volt 30 amp hour battery, and it says it can charge up to 8 amps, so you could get a faster charger for it. I thought my indicator wasn't working, but it turns out you just have to flip this hatch up to reveal the power switch. It also has this key here to lock it in the bike. This key is foldable, which I thought was pretty cool. I guess that helps fit it under this hatch. The other component that's under this hatch is the charging port. With the power switch flipped on, the indicator now works, and it shows I have 3 out of 4 bars. You may have already noticed this by now, but that hatch actually works as a handle, which is super convenient. I can easily load it with one hand. You may have also noticed that there's no discharge port on the battery. It's actually on the bottom of the battery and it slides right in just like that, so the bike is powered up. At this point, the taillight turned on, which confused me. I haven't even turned the bike on or even looked at the display yet, so I don't know why that happened. I tried squeezing the brake to see if it would light up, but it didn't do anything. Later I figured out that this happened because the taillight and headlight are wired completely independently from the controller or the display, so you don't even have to turn the bike on to turn the headlight and taillight on. I guess you could call that a feature. After getting distracted by that, I pulled the battery back out of the bike and plugged it in to get it charging up. It's time to assemble the bike, and the first step is to put the front wheel on. But I can't just prop the bike up on the milk crate like I have been doing with the other bikes, because the kickstand's sticking down on this side. So I'm just going to lean it over. It's not going to hurt anything. To put the front wheel on, first you have to remove the front axle. Once you spin the axle around enough, this nut will fall out of the bottom. Then you can just pull the axle out. You might have to twist it back and forth a bit. Once that's out of the way, you can slide the tire into place. Make sure you have the brake rotor down so it's on the same side as the brake caliper mount. Once the axle is in all the way, you can stand the bike up and lean it on something and install the little nut that fell out moments ago. When you do this, just make sure to rotate the nut around so it lines up with the hex pattern inside the forks, otherwise it won't thread in very far. Once you have that tight, you can tighten these 4 bolts here that clamp the axle in place. Now it's time to mount the brake caliper. This brake caliper has a brake caliper adapter bolted to it, so you first have to remove these 2 bolts. With the brake caliper unbolted, you can now bolt the brake caliper adapter to the front forks with the 2 bolts that came with the bike. With the adapter installed, it's time to bolt on the brake caliper, but don't get ahead of yourself. You have to remove this little divider first. Here's a tip for installing a brake caliper like this. These brake calipers have slotted holes, which means they can slide back and forth. This is good if you know what you're doing and bad if you don't. What you want to do is leave it loose like this, then you or someone else can press and hold the front brake while you tighten the bolts. Doing this will make sure the brake caliper is perfectly centered so that it won't rub the brake rotor. If you did it right, you should be able to press the brake lever and the brake disc and brake caliper shouldn't move at all. With that done, it's time to install the rear shock. The first step is to remove the nut and bolt that are in the lower shock mount. After that, you can lift the back of the bike up and align the shock with the lower shock mount and insert the bolt. I'm not even gonna lie, this was pretty difficult. I could barely get one thread on there and then I just had to spin forever tightening it with the wrench. After you do get it threaded all the way in, you can put the nut on the other side and tighten it up. Now it's time to install the headlight. The first step is to remove this bolt. After that's out of the way, you can take the headlight and stick the wire through the right side just like this. Then screw the bolt back on. It's kind of tricky because you can't use the Allen wrench straight like this because the headlight can't tilt down far enough, so you gotta thread it by hand and then use it the other way. At first I was surprised that this is all this mount was. This bolt isn't even clamping anything, it's just got a couple threads into the triple clamp. However, I added some Loctite and tightened it up real good, and it's been holding totally fine, so I guess that's good enough. The last thing to do with the light is just to plug it in. It's got two arrows on to help you align it, but it is a pretty stiff plug. Now it's time for the handlebars. You're going to want to remove these 4 bolts so you can put the handlebars in position. When I took a look at these 4 bolts, they had a ton of grease on them, so I wiped them off and added some blue Loctite just to be safe. There are 3 main things to keep in mind when installing the handlebars. First off, you don't want your wires to be all tangled up from the handlebars hanging, so make sure they aren't. Second, you want to make sure they are lined left and right. Third, you want to tilt the handlebars forward or back depending on your height and your riding position. This is just something you'll have to figure out while doing it and feel what feels best for you. I also decided to remove these 2 bolts here, wipe the grease off, and install blue Loctite. If you do this as well, make sure you keep the stem straight when you tighten everything up. This little rubber cap is the cherry on top. The next step is to install the front number plate, and while I was figuring out where to route the wires, I realized the brakes were swapped, so I'm going to cut this zip tie, remove these little wraps, and swap them over. If you're used to riding mountain bikes, then you won't have to do this. However, since I'm more used to riding e-motos at this point, it's more of a safety concern than anything that these need to be swapped, because it can be really bad if you grab what you thought was the rear brake and it's the front brake, or vice versa. If you decide to do this, just don't hit the brake levers when there's no brake line attached or it'll shoot fluid out and you probably don't have any extra. Also, make sure to not strip or over tighten these little bolts that hold the brake lines in. This is also a good opportunity to reroute these hoses and wires so they're in a better spot that doesn't interfere with the number plate. Speaking of the number plate, it's pretty easy to install. You just slide it over the forks and zip tie it on. Really the only thing to worry about is you have to avoid zip tying around a wire or a hose, so make sure you don't do that. After your zip ties are on and tightened up and the number plate's in a good position, you can cut the ends off the zip ties and push the heads all the way around so they're out of the way. At this point I thought I missed a step because it looks like these rubber stoppers go all the way down here, so I would have to take the number plate off. But I looked on the manual and it looks like it just hits this piece, so you just have to slide this down a little bit. Make sure you do slide this stopper down and then turn the steering back and forth and make sure you're not pinching a wire like I did. The front fender is really easy, just unscrew all the bolts, put the fender in place and then bolt them back on. One of my bolts fell out and was loose in the bottom of my box, so make sure to look there if you can't find one of the pieces. The steps are much the same for the rear fender, however it's only 2 bolts this time. The threads for this right bolt on my bike were super messed up, but I think it'll be fine since this bolt isn't really holding much weight. Now it's time for the pedals. These can be annoying because the left pedal is reverse thread, but it's labeled on the crank and on the pedal, so that's super convenient. I don't think you need to see me put on the pedals because they're pretty straightforward to install. The last thing I adjusted was this little brake line holder because the brake was going into the front tire. I moved it down a bit and I tightened up the bolt so it wouldn't move. And just like that, the bike's assembled. I always love how these new bikes look under my bright workshop lights. They absolutely shine. I think that buying this bike could be a good alternative to building an entry-level Stealth Bomber clone because I actually worked on a Stealth Bomber clone that had similar specs and price to this one, and it was a piece of junk. I could not wait to get it out of my shop. I can't totally blame the person who assembled that bike because I know firsthand how annoying those bikes can be, but that bike was definitely a fire hazard, plus it had the normal drawbacks of a Stealth Bomber clone, like being big and bulky and not being able to remove the battery, so if I could go back in time and tell that person to buy a bike like this, I would. Here's the bike compared to the Hey Bike Villain I reviewed a few videos ago. As you can see, it's significantly bigger, which is a welcome change compared to these small bikes I've been riding recently. However, the Patrol isn't the king of my garage. Right now that's a CR250 roller that I bought recently. You'll see this on the channel eventually. Once I got the bike fully charged up, it was time to do a top speed run right away. And just like that, 40 miles an hour. I really like this display. It was calibrated perfectly from the factory, plus it updates really fast. I can tell that this bike is definitely limited to 40 miles an hour because it won't go a smidge faster. Now that I got that out of the way, it's time to take a real good look at this bike out in the sun. The acceleration isn't anything special, but I knew it wouldn't be since it does have a hub motor. The brakes are good. I haven't even broken them in yet and I've already locked the front and the rear tire. The suspension feels pretty good. I can bounce on it and it doesn't favor the front or the back, which is pretty nice. It looks like it would be possible to wheelie, but you'd have to be super good to ride it out. It could also do stoppies, but definitely not on concrete. It just locks the front tire. You'd have to have packed dirt or something like that. The suspension feels good for my weight, but it looks like it's adjustable if you're the type of person that does that. It also has adjustment on the rear shock, but you'll definitely need a tool for this or just a giant pair of channel locks. This bike does feel awesome to cruise around on, but I don't think you're going to be pedaling much since it's pretty awkward. Here's me pedaling at 20 miles an hour, which is about as fast as my legs want to go. Here's 30 miles an hour. Because this bike has knobby tires, I thought it would be good on a gravel road, which is sometimes slick with bad tires. I was right to think this. This bike never felt unstable even when I did some dumb stuff on purpose. After I filmed all that footage, my brothers and some friends wanted to go riding, so I loaded up the Patrol and 2 other e-bikes and met them at my grandparents' farm. After we rode around for a while, I broke off from the group to do some filming. The first thing I wanted to tackle was that dirt road that I got stuck on in the villain video. Since it's dry, it's easier to ride down now, but it's still full of ruts. The handling on the dirt road was a bit lackluster, but that's what I was expecting. This bike suffers from the same problem that all bikes do that have a hub motor, which is having a ton of unsprung weight at the end of the swing arm. This means if you start hitting a ton of small bumps, the swing arm starts bouncing around like crazy, which makes it feel like you're losing control. The other drawback of having a hub motor is that it has relatively little torque compared to a mid-drive of the same power. This is the side of the dam that I climbed up easily on my upgraded Villain 2 videos ago, and next video I'll climb up it on a stock bike, but in this video I will not be making it to the top. Later that night, I decided to finally check out the lights, and I'm satisfied with them. The taillight is plenty bright, plus it gets brighter when you hit the brakes, which is always good. The headlight is pretty good. It has this wider oval section that's less bright, and then this focused rectangle section in the middle, which is super bright. I like this better than just having a big blob of light like some headlights have. Another one of my brother's friends wanted to try the bikes out, so I took them to the local trails for more testing. The Patrol can handle trails like this totally fine, where there's a couple bumps here and there, but if there's constant bumps like on that bumpy dirt road, that's when the hub motor becomes annoying. It can also make it up the mini hill climbs here, but only if you have enough speed.
Yeah.
That was my review of the Jasion Patrol. In conclusion, I think this is a great bike. It's pretty fun, but you just have to know its limits. If you're interested in buying one, I'll have the link in the pinned comment and the description. Anyways, thanks for watching.